I've been watching a lot of Floydson lately, and it got me thinking, what if I tried to do a 100% playthrough? I've never actually done this before throughout my years of gaming, so I knew it'd be a challenge. So I started digging through my backlog of games I bought during the Steam Summer Sale, and I landed on a dark puzzle platformer called Ugly. To complete this game, I would need to collect all memories, collect all the items, defeat all the bosses, and complete all the parts. And what started as a completion challenge quickly turned into a psychological journey I didn't see coming. The game starts with a mirror breaking and a shard falling towards our ugly boy, who's napping. He wakes up and takes a sip of his beer, adding it to the collection of bottles building behind him. When he walks up to the mirror, he sees his reflection, which turns out to be an interesting platforming mechanic. I swapped positions with my reflection and continued to push a rickety platform that I expected to fall over at any moment. After doing that for a solid minute, I realized I could use the environment on the other side to get on top of that platform, then swap with my reflection, causing it to tumble. I reclaimed my mirror shard and climbed towards a locked door. I have no idea why I thought I wouldn't need a key, as there was a big lock on the fucking door, but I started placing the mirror piece down, expecting some magic to happen. Once I realized this wasn't going to work, I continued deeper into the cellar, even learning a new mechanic of placing the mirror shard on the ground. Eventually I walked past a glowing drawing, which ended up being my first encounter with a memory. It showed a boy crying while writing ugly and another figure in red behind him trying to hand him a mask. That's when I realized, okay, this feels like this might be a dark-ass game. After that, I found the key and was rudely pushed over by a door. I grabbed it, but while trying to leave the area, I fell into a point of no return. This is where I found out I could get absolutely shit-faced to reset the level. After waking up from my drunken slumber, I used the mirror to grab the key again and made my way back towards the door. I really struggled to figure out how to climb up from the ladder until I placed the mirror on the floor, climbed down, and my reflection ended up going up. I unlocked the door and entered the hub world. A massive mansion with several doors and a lot of paintings. There was a gold key I'd need to collect, but first I wanted to explore the hub and look for any secrets. That's when I found another memory. A boy sitting on a swing, wearing the same mask the red man had offered earlier. The red man was standing behind a tree and some menacing laughter was playing. Not a very nice man. I made my way up to the key and followed a butterfly towards the door. Now the lady... butterflies flying away. Where are you off to, bud? I used the key to enter the butterfly room and began the first level. I entered a large room with more painted over faces and a grand piano at the center. As I walked through, a door burned away, revealing the first puzzle room. That's also where I started to wonder. Yeah, because there's a baby. It looks like a baby girl, I think, actually, with a mother. And then I'm guessing the mother is dead, because you can see the kid in, like, what looks like a graveyard, and the mum's waving from up above. I grabbed the key, then got completely distracted by a butterfly flying around the room. Am I trying to catch the butterfly? Back in the main room, I noticed a memory hidden up near the piano. I placed the mirror in front of it and climbed up to reveal the scene. A masked boy playing piano with the red man standing behind him. It was very ominous. Then it was time to enter the next puzzle room. Another butterfly tried to guide me somewhere, but I ignored it because of the first room and went straight for the key. But we'll come back to that later. At the end of the hallway was another memory. A lady in green holding a crying baby, while the red man appeared to be absolutely wigging out. Angry at the baby for some reason. I made my way up to the key and said the famous last words. I think that's everything we need from here. That was not the case, but I still progressed into the next puzzle room anyway. There, I collected the key and watched the first movie, which was about some caterpillars and butterflies. It probably has some hidden meaning behind it, but I think we'll figure out more about that as we continue on through. The next puzzle room is where I got stuck for a fucking long time. I figured out how to reach the key, but I had no clue how to get back out with it. After 10 minutes of trying different things, I just said, I just don't get what am I supposed to do? Like, how do I get out of here? So I cheated for the first time and Googled the solution. I hate when you feel so stuck. You're like, nah, I have to look it up. You look it up and then you're like, how in the fuck did I not see that? I'm not even sure I ever would have figured that out on my own, bro. Honestly. That one puzzle alone took me over 25 minutes to clear. The next room ended up being one of my favourite. It had an arrow showing exactly where to place the mirror, and you had to swap back and forth between rooms to climb up towards the key. After grabbing that key, I moved into the next challenge, progressing through dark areas towards a lit room. This is where I learned that you can only transfer with your reflection when it's lit up blue. I grabbed the key and made my way towards the final puzzle room of the area. Down below was another memory. The red man again trying to make the child wear a mask while a dog barked in the background. I then made my way to the gold key, which I assumed would unlock the next area of the hub world. But when I exited the puzzle room, let's get this darker in here. There's some weird noises going on. As I made my way towards the exit, I noticed a mummy hanging from the chandelier. It didn't do anything, so I just kept going until it grabbed me, which started off the first boss fight. Took me a few tries. It knocked me down towards the center and forced me to drink to reset the level. Once I noticed he was dropping an eyeball to knock me into that position, I realized the goal was to bait him into hitting the gold rings holding him up. After getting him to smash all three, he fell to the ground, revealing a hole in his head shaped like the mirror. I placed it, and just like that, the boss fight ended. What the freak, dude. Now it was time to progress to the next area. Next area's mechanic was pink goo. While my reflection was in the goo, we couldn't transfer places with each other. I entered another large part of the castle, adorned with paintings and a fair bit of goo oozing across the walls. I had a bit of a look around until I decided, well, let's go into this first puzzle room anyway, fuck it. Inside was another memory. This time the red man was holding a whip, as a family played some music and the dog barked. It's got a bit of a whip going on now. In the next room, the area I had to get to was completely covered in pink goo, until some rubble fell and revealed one small square I could transfer into. I had to reach the top and push a box down so I could jump into position. And on the first try, obviously, I did the clever thing. Ah, wrong button. Once I did it properly, I got to the other room, grabbed the key, and saw another memory. This time it showed that the red man was very charismatic with the ladies. Some would say he has game. Then came some sort of church, and it looked like a crab was giving the sermon. For the puzzle, I figured out how to get the box to the ground floor. I couldn't work how to get it up past the stairs. But see, that's the trouble. How do I get it up there? And with that came Google search number 2. We'll start keeping a counter on the screen because this game made me feel like a certified idiot. I grabbed the key and watched the second movie. There's a strawberry that's just rotting, I think. After failing that puzzle for a solid 10 minutes, I said, you really gotta fucking use your brain and shit, bruh. Not that Googling was really using it. The next puzzle actually required some basic physics, and for once, I was grateful I got an excellence in one of my science papers. It's besides the point that it was the only one I ever got. I used my gigantic physics brain to solve it and nabbed the next key. In the next room, there was another memory. Okay, it's like a dinner with a bit of singing in that. This puzzle was very precision based. If you fell down to the dining table, you'd have to reset. Luckily, I'm an absolute gamer, made for environments like this. Nope. Fuck! Oh, fuck's sake. Eventually I nailed the jump and got onto the platform to claim the key. Little did I know, precision mechanics were about to become a regular fucking thing. Next up was a maze of rooms. I had to find my way through to get to the key. And somehow, I actually managed to get this one first try. I made my way to the last room, which turned out to be one of the coolest puzzles yet. Inside was a clock, and every time it struck while I had the mirror down, it would cause me to swap places with my reflection. There was also a bunch of pink goo to block the obvious solutions, and it became a solid challenge. I kept going for a platform I swear the developers put there just to mess with me. But once I figured out to use the other side of the room, I got to the key. Boom, baby. We've keyed it up. When I walked out of the last room, I muttered, "It's a lot more pink and goopy." Then the floor collapsed, and it was time for the next boss fight. A pink goop monster smashed through the wall, and in true gamer fashion... Oh fuck, I think I'm meant to be running. I just stood there, and with that, it was time to drink. Second time around, I didn't make the same mistake, and I'd quickly learned you really need to stay in. There's no room for like minute muck-ups, dude. Especially because one part of the run involved pushing a box into place mid-chase, which really eats up your time. Yeah, no, because I'm fucked. I remember smashing the arms of my chair in gamer rage. I need a break. I know, I fucking need a break. I had a quick smoko, came back, 5 more tries, and then I finally had my gamer brain kick in. This was when the goop monster turned into a bucket of paint with a slot for my mirror. And with that, it was boss defeated and time for the next area. The next area had a memory sitting right out front of the door. Okay, so there's a memory here that I have no idea how the fuck I'm gonna do that. At this point in the playthrough, I decided it would be smarter to stop pointing out every single memory and I'll save them for later. This way, once we've found them all, I can slot them into order and we can piece together the whole story. So this will be the last time I bring them up for a while. And here's the spider room. Another big chamber, covered in cracked glass that glittered across the floors and walls. This was clearly a new mechanic, but I just didn't know it yet. The first puzzle was a huge glass staircase, and I realized then that the broken glass could hold my reflection in place. I climbed up to the key, but as usual, I had no clue how to get back down. Turns out it was fucking simple. Just leave the shard where it was, and then teleport back. This mechanic really threw me off though. I couldn't wrap my head around it at first. The very next room proved my point, since it took me 10 minutes to figure out I just had to drop down a ladder while my reflection stayed stuck to the glass. That way I could climb back up and collect the key. This room also had the next movie. Okay, the movie is a lion hunting monkey. Or is it just wildlife? It might just be wildlife. I have no idea. The next room was a maze, and I'd love to tell you I used high IQ plays to figure this out. But unless the high IQ play is to watch someone do it on YouTube, then I don't know what to tell you. So I was like there, but I just didn't think you could actually... I fucked it. So there you go. Even after watching how to do it, I still go and prove how much of a fuckwit I am. But second time's the charm, and I finally escaped. The next puzzle mixed pink goo and glass shards. I used the glass to boost up to the box, dropped it down, and climbed up towards the key. Okay, whoa. Then a window burst open, blasting wind across the room, so I couldn't actually reach the key. Luckily, reflection mechanics saved me. Okay, so maybe I'm alright, I figured that one out. Of course, I always say that right before proving myself wrong. The next room was another maze, where I had to use the walls to make my way towards the key. Oh my god, how yes. I kind of just jimmied my way around there. Like, I sort of get the mechanic, but it is a wee bit difficult. So I made my way to what I thought was the final room, and lo and behold, I was stumped. I used a normal mechanic of going through the floor and got the key. Yeah, so we've got the key, but then we've got no way out, do we? No. In fact, we don't. So the irony came in full force, and I had to go back to the YouTube video. How am I meant to go like, this is gonna be the way I do that? I grabbed the key and was convinced this was the last door until I made my way to check my progression. Yeah, there's still one more door to find. Because obviously I need another gold key. At that point I logged off. When I came back, I checked my progression again and noticed I'd missed a memory way back in the butterfly room. Of course, it was that butterfly from the start of the video, as it was actually trying to lead me somewhere, straight to the missing memory. I grabbed it, then returned to the glass shard area. I searched for another 10 minutes before spotting shards hidden under the floor. That led me down to the final door. And there's the key. Gold key in hand, I headed back to the exit and noticed the entire chamber looked like one giant cracked mirror. And as I walked through the door, that's when the boss appeared. He locked my mirror shard into place and started smashing the sides of his cage, sending glass shards flying at my reflection. Remember how I thought precision platforming was rough during the pink goo fight? That was nothing compared to this. The trick was to use the bottom platforms to get my reflection through the gap of the glass shards so that it didn't get pushed back. Dozens of times I nearly had it, only for one tiny shove to send me off the timing. No, not right at the end, that's not allowed. After 30 minutes of gamer rage and one proper death slam, I finally nailed the run. Fuck yeah, boy, that's the ticket. Just like before, I placed my shard into the remains. I'd overcome the crystal. Where's my next door at? Was the question on my mind right before I got hit in real life with a stink bomb like no other. That's a stinky fart, brother. Real stinky. Some of you will know the pain of bulldog farts, and this wasn't pretty. Oh, there we go. That's the door. Unlike the earlier areas, this one was pitch dark. Only a few candles lit the path, and a glowing butterfly hovered beside me. On the way up, the floor gave way, dumping me into the first puzzle door. The problem? I had no idea what was going on. This mechanic hadn't even been shown to me. Cue YouTube save number 4, and that's where I learned that I could use falling with the mirror shard to build momentum, launching myself up to platforms I couldn't normally reach. The first attempt, I just jumped straight into the fucking hole. Once I figured it out, I managed to fling myself high enough to grab the key and move on. The next room used the same trick, but this time I had to smash through a rock floor. The key wasn't free either. It was attached to a pigeon flying in circles. So there I was building momentum, launching myself upwards, and desperately trying to snatch the damn thing out of midair. After several failed dives, I finally caught it. Unfortunately, this is where my audio gave out. The footage looks fine, but my mic decided to tap out. So for the rest of the video, there's going to be no live reactions, just my silent suffering. The momentum puzzles kept coming. I zipped through a few more rooms before stumbling into what I called the zoo room. The place was filled with exotic animal corpses, except for one monkey, which is still alive somehow. The goal of the room was similar to the others, but I also had to employ forward momentum to make my way across the room to the key. It took me a while to get the hang of, and the monkey really let me know he thought it was funny, as he laughed every time I fucked it up. Let me just say I remember getting quite angry at the monkey. This room also contained the 4th movie, a calm nature scene that suddenly turned stormy as dark clouds rolled in and lightning split the sky. Eventually I cleared the zoo room and pushed into the final puzzle, and this one was a bit of a mind bender. I first had to push the box from the top onto the elevator to push it down. I then went down to the bottom so I could get behind the second box and push it onto the platform. I then had to place my mirror on the platform, drop down, and grab the key, which meant it was boss time. Unlike the other areas, nothing had changed when I left that final room. But as I walked through the door to get back to the hub world, I went into what I thought was the longest corridor ever. I kept running forward, but I felt I was getting nowhere. And then I decided to turn back and go towards the door I came through, to find out it took me seconds to get back to the door after minutes of running. The next time around, I went almost halfway, placed the mirror shard, which revealed a not so long hallway. So I just wasted a couple minutes for no reason. But is that really surprising? The next part of the puzzle was a memory game, as I had to go through the right colored doors in the order of the hub world doors I had done so far. After completing that, I made my way into the room where the door frame and door had been separated, and I had to put them back together to go through. And the puzzle after that was similar, as I had to put my reflection through a drawn door and myself through a real door. And then I found myself in the boss's chamber. The goal for this boss was quite simple. Don't get caught and put your key in the boss's eye hole. This was honestly probably the easiest boss in the game, as it only took me a handful of goes to get it done. I placed a mirror in the hole in his head, and with that, I had overcome the gatekeeper. Next up was the Scorpion door, which introduced a brand new headache: transporting boxes. Using the mirror shard, I could now teleport these boxes around the room. It sounds logical enough, but let's not forget, I'm a fucking idiot. I cheated a lot in this section because I couldn't get my head around how to move them properly. I went around collecting keys, solving box puzzles, and raging. Some moments were genuinely fun though. One puzzle used the momentum mechanic from the pigeon room, except this time I had to launch the boxes into switches. Another had me juggling 3 boxes onto 3 separate buttons. That one was surprisingly satisfying once it clicked. After I finished that puzzle, lightning suddenly struck outside. A secret passage opened beneath the grand piano. Inside was a puzzle with 4 buttons, each cycling through 4 different symbols. No clues, no obvious solution. My first attempt was matching the number of animal eyes carved onto the wall, which held no dice. After flailing around, I realized a solution was hidden in the rooms I'd passed through to get here. I used that to open up the next area. The next stretch got darker. Skulls, cult-like imagery, stone devil faces staring down at me. The puzzles had kept layering mechanics, putting a reflection into a glass shard to move a box, mixing forward momentum with mid-air box pushing. Each one took longer than the last. And then came the 5th and final movie. Stone devils flickered across the screen. One last reminder of the game's tone before the next boss. As I left the area, my character stumbled into random drunken fits. The screen blurred as I lurched towards the door. Then came the next boss. This fight wasn't about precision or platforming. It was about drinking. My job was to get the hairy figure absolutely wasted. Each time the bottle tipped, I had to slide the cup under the stream so he'd drink. If there was nothing in the cup, he'd get angry and slam me under the cup, forcing me to reset. But after 3 drinks, he slumped and passed out cold. I placed the shard in his head, and like that, I had overcome the poisoned. With the poison behind me, it was time for the final climb. I made my way up endless staircases, rising towards the source of music that had been echoing through the mansion. At the top was a burned out throne room, empty, charred, but strangely quiet. At the end of the room was a mirror, where it looks like the mirror shard had first come from at the start of the game. I slotted my shard back into place, and the last sequence began. The final memory unfolded, or at least I thought it was. Either way, it's time to have a look back through all the fragments I'd collected and piece together the bigger picture. And luckily for me, someone else had already stitched the full memory timeline together, so I didn't have to. It starts with the king finding himself very attractive and standing next to his pregnant wife, already showing he loved himself more than anything. It then shows after the baby is born, and I'm guessing he is angry because he believes the boy looks ugly and couldn't be his kin. The next one is the mother loving the baby and the king not knowing what to do. It then shows what looks like a birthday present being given to the child, which is a dog, and the king is angrily looking at them and then checking out the maid's ass, showing his infidelity. He then begins to start telling his child to wear a mask, while the dog from the previous clip is barking at him. After that, he's more angrily asking the boy to wear a mask, with a whip in his hand, and the dog is barking louder than before. A fight seems to begin, and it looks like the king is beginning to show his true colours. As we can see, he has a scorpion tail. In the next memory, we can see that he has killed the dog, and the one after shows him being cremated. The mother and child have dressed up, and by the look of it, the mother is telling the child he is not ugly, as you can see in the reflection. It seems the mother has decided to try and run away with the child, as the father, looking even more like a scorpion, and some guards have come to stop them. This is when the mother dies. The memory is called a strange illness, so I'm unsure whether it was during the escape attempt that she was murdered. Similar to the dress-up memory, the king and his son are standing in front of the mirror, but this time he is being told he is ugly, as shown by the reflection. This is where the first memory we found comes in, as the child begins to believe what his father is telling him. It seems the king begins to try and shape the boy into his image now that the mother is gone, and he is not afraid to use abuse to make it happen. The next is a scene of a dinner where the boy is now set to become the heir. The pressure and the bullying has the boy sad. The king begins to start womanizing, and the young maid doesn't seem happy as she watches over the boy. He starts having to hanky-panky with these women and ends up getting a lot of them pregnant. But he finds himself unhappy because he thinks all the children look ugly. It seems he turns into the monster he was always meant to become and starts killing the babies. The young maid begins to tell the boy that he isn't ugly again, which sets the king mad. So he locks the maid away. For some reason he had bound the boy to the chair and begun melting down the mask. Then it ends with the memory I've just seen, which is him smashing a candelabra into the mirror, which brought me back to the present and the big reveal. I wasn't playing as the boy at all. I was the king the whole time. I was transported into a ballroom where the banquet from the memories played out in grotesque detail. Guests feasting at the table, a boy on a leash, mud wrestling, even a human pendulum swinging across the hall. A very yuppie party, if you ask me. At the throne, a maid poured me a drink. I got drunk and stumbled back towards the mirror. That's when the truth hit. He was ugly himself. Maybe not on the outside, but certainly on the inside. The scene ended the way the memory foretold. Smashing the candelabra into the mirror, flames erupting around me, and so began the final boss. The flames. This was, without exaggeration, the most aggravating boss battle I've ever done. The goal was to reach lit doors, but every time I approached one, it slammed shut. Meanwhile, walls of fire swept across the arena, fire butterflies dive bombed me, and eruptions exploded from the floor. One hit from anything, and the shard was ripped away. I died. A lot. After what felt like forever, I finally reached the ladder towards the ceiling, only for it to vanish, dropping me into the hands of the flames. And when I took a drink, instead of restarting, the game twisted. I began falling, flaming head, falling past every item I'd have to collect in my nightmares. When I was falling, I noticed that I was bandaged up, and I began walking down the hallway. He fell once more into a bucket of pink paint, and he painted over his own face on the wall. He fell again into a pile of broken mirrors, carrying the hammer the crystal used to send glass shards flying my way. He fell once more into a pile of locks, and as he walked down the corridor, he began to seal all of the doors. He fell once more into a bucket of wine, continuing to drink as he stumbled forward. And finally, he fell one last time into the bed where we woke up at the beginning of the game. This provided what I had suspected all along. He wasn't just abusive, he was a narcissistic alcoholic who tried to hold everyone else to the same impossible standards he judged himself by. Even though he believed he was beautiful, the game was forcing him through these trials to reveal the truth. Just how ugly he really was. Now you'd think after the King's Reckoning and that brutal final boss would be done, but nope. Ugly had one more trick, the nightmare. This was the post-game, the real test for 100% to finish. I had to backtrack through multiple levels, searching out doors with red veins crawling across them. Each one had a secret nightmare level, and inside there was an item I would have to collect. This part of the game was pure punishment. Every level dialed precision mechanics up to an 11. Tiny platforms, perfectly timed swaps, jumps where being a single pixel off meant death. Over and over again, I died. Hundreds of times. I lost count of the resets. The rage quits hit record levels, the smoko breaks an all-time high, but because this was for the video, I kept pushing. If I wasn't making content, there is no way in hell I would have kept going. Little by little I cleared them. One nightmare door, then another, until finally, after 5 hours, I had collected all 12 items. And even found the last memory I'd almost missed. Once I had everything, the game looped back to the very beginning. Just like the start, I found myself having to climb over that same rickety platform. But this time, as it gave way, I didn't just fall, I found myself caught in a noose. And then, a song began to play.
This cruel devil here you see, I care about nothing but me. I'm only wood to burn in hell, I'll stay away from thee. The caring wife protected us from the dangerous love. Her life she gave to try to save the son that she embraced. This cruel devil here you see, I get back nothing but me. I'm only worth to burn in hell, stay away from me.
That was it. I had done it. I had 100% completed Ugly. What I'd just finished wasn't just a puzzle platformer. It was a dark, twisting story about abuse, trauma, and what happens when a narcissistic alcoholic is finally forced to see how ugly he truly is. But the real moral of the story, I'm an absolute idiot who should never play puzzle games. But the real moral...